Welcome to PreVetted Podcast, a blend of tech and leadership. Our goal is to explore the journeys and stories of our guests, revealing valuable insights about engineering and business, and sharing them with our community. Our guest today is Gregory Manley. How are you doing, Greg?
Good. How are you doing?
Great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Great, awesome. So let's start by sharing a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So I am currently the VP of a company called Xact Inc. So we are an outsourced finance and accounting firm, helping startups usually around their first institutional round of funding with their back-end finances, anywhere from AP, AR, day-to-day bookkeeping, structural accounting, all the way up to tax filing, tax compliance, but also, through that, be able to help out CPA firms that may need some additional help, but also, just be an ecosystem partner, for founders as they're looking to navigate their way here in Silicon Valley, but also across the country as a whole.
Great, awesome. So you started as a store manager, right?
Yes. His first job, real job out of college that wasn't lifeguarding. Yep.
Right. How did you progress from store manager in Minnesota? It was right.
Connecticut, actually.
Connecticut. Sorry.
Yeah. No worries. How did I progress from that to where I am today?
Yeah. I mean, you progress from a store manager to an enterprise account executive, right? That's a big jump, and you won't move from Connecticut to the Bay Area, right?
California. Yeah, I know. A little difference in size and culture a little bit. So yeah, that's actually a very easy question. It's a matter of really getting to know yourself as you're growing into the professional world. So when I was a store manager, I was one of 3 stores within a mile of each other that were the same, and I was the smallest of each. But every day you had a percentage counter of like where you guys were at as a business end, comparatively to your neighbors and everybody else in the district. I always wanted to be number one. So I was always just like pounding my team members to make sure that like we were, hitting the pavement, making sure that we were getting the sales in. And then every day I was like, okay, did I win? Did I get it? And became the top one in the district. And I was like, wow, I'm very competitive when it comes down to sales. So I wound up jumping over to a minor league hockey team out of Massachusetts, and doing the same thing, just very inside sales, really 150 phone calls a day. But my goal was to be the best at it, and get you to the next step. Literally, the money that I got from that job was enough money from gas to get me from my parents' house to there, maybe buy a sandwich, and then go home. And that was it. There was really not much else going off that way. And then eventually the team moved out to San Jose, California, and a little bit of that competitiveness kind of stuck with me as well. As I came out here, I was in a market with a much larger team. That was actually the parent team of the team that I was working with, and I was like, I am going to be the best here, where people are going to want to come see this product instead of that one, and did exactly that, where we started really, pushing the product out, and we were able to get to the point where the company kind of noticed and was like, we should bring these guys on as our sales team for the parent team. But in that time, wound up, going towards the software end.
And what advice would you give to other people, trying to come to the Bay Area, trying to move to a more, to the enterprise world?
No, absolutely. And I know it can be a little bit of a cliche, because you hear it a lot from people. But I would say make as many connections as possible. I've always found that in sales, the biggest thing that you need to sell is yourself. So, a rule that I've always had is sell yourself, sell the company, and the product will sell itself. So if you're able to work that target, there's nothing in this world that you can't do. So I think in that end, meet as many people as you can, explain what you're doing, and people will really see who you are personally. If you're a used car salesman at the end of the day, people will find that out. But if you are there with a genuine passion and feeling of like, okay, here's what we're going to do, people are going to see that and really gravitate towards that. And I think that's, has really helped me get to each step, because it was never by myself. It's always been, working with others and getting to that next role, between somebody else understanding what I do from a day-to-day standpoint, seeing that and reflecting on it, and being like, I want him on my team, or I know someplace that needs you. You should jump over here. And I think that would be the other thing. Keep an open mind. I never thought in the first world that I would have this position that I do now when I was coming out of college.
Is the, you don't know what you don't know kind of thing, right?
Correct. Yep.
And then, you start going towards the general direction that you want to go, and then you start stumbling upon, different opportunities that otherwise you wouldn't.
Absolutely. And I think so, I'm helping a lot of founders out now. And I think the biggest thing I've really found with a lot of that is that's usually when people ask, what do you want to do? And it's always that tough question, because it always comes up so abruptly, like, what do I want to do? But I think really, like, I left, helping out founders for a little bit, and I was like, man, this just doesn't have the same gravitas as watching, a founder grow from, a 2-person shop into, a juggernaut. So I think helping, founders with their, finance and accounting is great, but it could be anything on a service provider side. Really, drives me to wake up every day and help those out that are in need, or a little bit lost in this crazy world of Silicon Valley. So that's kind of where it came through, but I never would have known that if I hadn't taken the opportunity to jump onto this position.
I've been going to the Bay Area for many years, and it's, I still find things that amaze me, and it has all the extremes, right?
Yep. No, absolutely. And I think, but I think a little bit of that, I think having those extremes is a good thing. I think because you're not pigeonholed into certain areas. I know we had explained that I jumped off from Connecticut. I think Connecticut is very well started in their business ways. They've, insurance capital of the world is where I grew up in, and they know what they're doing and they know the niche of it. But in regards to, building an innovation that hasn't really gotten to that point, and it's always fun going back there, visiting family and going, wait, you guys don't have DoorDash? And just little things like that. Or like, I'll be like, oh, I'll Venmo you guys. And they're like, what is that? And then you go back about 4 years later and everybody has it. So little things like that, where like there's those extremes, but like people, at least have that open mind on each side here in the Bay Area. And I think that's what really makes me love this area, is because, it's limitless in regards to what you can probably do.
It's kind of like living in the future. It's you're 2, 3, 4 years ahead of what everybody else is doing.
Yeah,
with all the craziness of that.
No, right? Exactly, and you got to live off a little bit of that crazy too. Like if you want, and I've always said too, like New England's really great for having that fence in the yard, and having the softball that you were playing, the baseball fields that you were playing on as a kid. And having your kids do the same thing, that's always nice. But if you're strive for innovation in the next point, like I do, where my mind's like, you got to keep moving constantly. The Bay Area is a great place to be.
Yeah, I've seen the these cleaning cleaning startups where they pick up your clothes and they clean up your clothes, right? So
yep.
There were like 5 or 10 of those at one point, right? And then they shut down, and now it's like 1 or 2, right? So and that's that thing only happens in the Bay Area, right? Where you can experience all those startups and all those new things that are coming, and then eventually they become mainstream, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we'll talk about it probably a little bit down the line as we get deeper into the woods there. I think having that diverse portfolio of what people are doing from a product side is something that might be very alien to others, where it's just like, wait, isn't that already done? It's like, yes, but it can be done in multiple different ways. There's right. more than one way to butter that bread.
Yeah, it's part of the innovation that in when you're innovating, sometimes you're taking risks. Some things are going to fail, right? So
Yeah,
you know,
but you also got to figure out where that success is, and be able
right.
to emulate a little bit of that as well.
So, what is the most valuable piece of advice you would give to someone aspiring to build a successful career in sales and leadership?
Absolutely. So I think, be genuine. I know I had touched, like, somebody will see it through if you're a used car salesman. Um, some people are really good at just, putting on scripts, and just kind of, spewing out whatever is handed to them. And sometimes it works if the marketing team that really has that effort. But I think being genuine is what gives you the longevity. And I've really found that in this business that I've been in for the last 8 years of outsourced finance and accounting is, if you're there to genuinely help a company, grow, and work and build with them, they're happy to be that partner for you for life. But if you're just there to kind of make a quick buck and then walk out the door, they can kind of pretty much quickly see that, and roll through that. So you can make a sale. Anybody can make a sale. I think the biggest thing is matter of the stickiness, beyond that. So I find, having that genuine like piece of it. So I think it's building that passion inside you as well. If you are going to if you're gonna even go to a show, right? You're not, and you don't have any like feel for it. You're only gonna last so long, and you go, hey, maybe I'll jump onto something else. Same thing with work. Like if you're not feeling it, got to be real with yourself. It's like, okay, what am I looking for? What am I determining on? And once you find that niche that you really have a passion for, kind of grow and build off through there. So I think on a sales side, that's a huge piece. It's just like have something that you love because you are going to get those rejections, and that's fine. But when it does go through, it's the best feeling in the world that you can have. And then I think on a leadership end, I think it's a matter of picking up those around you. I think that's the other huge thing I love about the Bay Area is I've you have happy hours with guys that are coming in from multiple different countries and maybe 10 cents in their pocket, and you're also hanging out in the same circle with a billionaire, and you're like, okay, what's really like the difference here? It's like everybody's there to help each other out. It's never been like, oh, it's just me and everybody's picking up that one person. It's sort of a team effort, and it's like, hey, we all want to be here and we all have that strive, so let us know what you need to roll through that way. So I think being able to work among a team and figuring out what those individual goals are to reach that same goal as well, that's what really drives, I think, a proper leadership where somebody will go to the end of the earth for you. And I think that's a huge piece of what I look into, for a leader that may be leading me, and then be able to emulate that out across my team as well.
Yeah, I've seen firsthand the community in the Bay Area is amazing. Everybody's helping each other. It's really unique.
And it's there's always something going on. There's always a happy hour. There's always a panel event, and it's not like, oh, panel event and then the guy who is leading a VC firm of a couple $1 billion. It's like, and they're running out the door. No, they're stopping and talking to everybody and going, hey, great. And then and even when I was doing a lot of VC interviews over a similar webinar piece like this, they would give out their email. It's like, are you not flooded with just absolute just everybody? And they're like, no, we really want to figure out how we can genuinely help, because you never know who you're going to come across by. And I think that open-mindedness, but also that feeling of like, okay, it may not work for us, but I have 2 to 3 other people that may be interested. It really has that sense of community across the whole.
Are there any specific skills or mindsets you believe are crucial for long-term success?
I think it is the service side. I think in regards to the idea of like, don't believe things are done just because you got that one job done. It's an ongoing process that you're constantly working on to one, better yourself, but also better for everybody else. So it's a relationship as you're working in business and sales. You're really trying to help others get to where they need to be. Whether that you're selling a service or whether that you are, putting out a product that is just, being there to, make someone stay a little bit happier or easier. If it's not, reciprocated, it's really tough to be able to grow on top of that, because you're kind of just sort of sitting there on the same line because you're refusing to grow internally, through your own mindsets as well. So I think that's a huge piece of it. But I think in regards to, long-term success, it's just, and I think a lot of, those that I've seen it from, above me, it's just, being able to keep moving, as well. Like never be able to be complacent. So like, yes, you can pat yourself on the back. You can, be proud of the work that you've done. But then you kind of have to sit and go, okay, what's the next thing? And then circle that on your calendar and get to that next piece and plateau of where you want to be in your career.
Awesome. So could you walk us through your process for developing effective sales strategies, especially in diverse industries, like life science, SaaS, and finance?
Absolutely. It is. I think one, believing in your product is run through, right? But also, so again, going back to the sales goals of, sell yourself, sell the company, and the product's going to sell itself. So I think those are the three things. As I think once you sharpen yourself as a salesperson, it's like, okay, what's this company doing? What are we providing? But also like, what's that vision for the company? And then with that, you kind of utilize that product through there. And I think life science is a huge piece on that, and it's so amazing. I think that's the one that really gets me like jumping to that next point, is because they are, looking so outside the box to make this future better, for everybody, that you're just like, wow, okay, it's not just here to make a buck. It's like there is something here that there's a passion for, and you're able to really kind of, be able to sell that, that passion, but also have that solution to a problem that you are dealing with day to day right now. So I've worked out of IndieBio, out of San Francisco for years, and I've met people that have done, synthetic foods, from, up to like chocolate, as well as meats, and just like lab grown stuff where it's just like, here's how we're saving the environment, whether that be losing cocoa beans to the point where to the point of extinction, and it's like, here's what we're doing to kind of have that, build and solution for it, and you're really able to kind of, work through that, where I think on a SaaS side is it's software as a service, right? So
Right.
you're finding somebody else's problem and going, okay, how can we make this more efficient? And you're really able to kind of use that through. So I started my software career in a SaaS platform that was helping managed service providers. And what we were doing was making their business more efficient. And it was a long process of working with founders that had been doing it since the 80s with one of the original Macs, that they're like, no, we're good. And you watched a lot of those guys either retire or just kind of sell the business off. But those that wanted to make their business more efficient, have grown to substantial lengths, and some of them have even taken over whole states. Like I know one of my old clients is now pretty much running the state of Nebraska, from a managed service provider side, and so you're able to kind of see that and have that, pride in there. And I think, on the finance end, it's more, just, being able to go, how can I help, right? Not everybody's proficient at their own thing, and I think a lot of founders are really good at their technology at hand, but sometimes not so much on the business end, and that's not a bad thing at all. It's just like, hey, here's the focus and here's what we want to do, but we're taking so much time here. So having, being able to be as a finance firm and be able to be a professional to help those that may not have the time or just have that, sense of complexity around the financial structure. I think that's what really pushes it to the next level of like, okay, here's your problem in the sense of here's what's roadblocking you from getting to that next step. Here's how we can kind of create that solution so it can be off of your hands.
I'm sure that the feeling of I was part of that growth, right? It's appealing, right?
So 100%, and I have it off to my side here. So in life sciences, I remember we did a happy hour with me and a couple other service providers back in 2018, out of Second Street in San Francisco, out of an innovation lab, and I met this guy who workspace was literally maybe the desk that I'm sitting in right now. It's probably about 6 feet wide. And he was like, I've created this hangover cure. And I was like, oh, like, I was like, we've all been there, right? So it's just like, let's, I'm curious what it's true. And he gave me this vial, and I still have it. I actually haven't even used it. But I know it works. Why? Because just last week, I was listening to a podcast, and who was one of the presenting sponsors for it? ZBiotics, which was this hangover cure company that I was like, oh man, I met that guy when it was just him and his founder who wasn't even there, and he was working out of a tabletop, out of in a community space full of hundreds of people, and I was like, and now that guy has made it to the point where it's run through, and I was like, I couldn't be so more proud of knowing that I was able to at least navigate him and help him initially to the point of where he is now. So I think that's what wakes me up every single day, and I'm glowing just talking about it. So
Yeah, that's amazing. Like when you find those success stories that you were part of.
No,
that's invigorating.
that's
Yeah.
that again. I think that's the real reward that you're working off through here. And I think, and even them, right? Like, they're not done. Like, they've got so much more to grow, but like knowing to the where they are right now, you're like, man, they really made it. Even to this point, you gotta have a sense of pride there. But that's not where they're stopping. They know that they're going to the next big thing. So.
While I was hearing you, I feel identified as well, because I'm an introvert software engineer. So
Yep.
It takes a while to go from there to actually being in a podcast, hosting a podcast, and
No, and
running a
I mean,
company.
and it's funny that you say that, because that's the one thing I don't know how to do. Like, I have so many like workarounds, and I'm always have this entrepreneurial mindset, but I was like, the one thing I'm missing is a software engineer. So like you should never be like, because that's such a great skill. I just don't know where to start or how to read it. And I'm just like, man, this is I'm so blown away by the work that you guys do, that it's just like there's a skill there, and I think it's that molding together, right? And exactly as you said, like now you are, running this podcast, and running it efficiently. So it's just like being able to have that transferable skill, really goes a long way.
And being able to be honest with yourself, and being able to say, okay, these are the things that I lack, right, that I need to improve, right? And with that, being able to, okay, talk it with others so they can give you the support, and and help you get grow, basically, and get to achieve your goals, right?
No, absolutely. And I think even, when you're, restless at night and you're just sitting there going, okay, don't beat yourself up over it. Just, while you're sitting there and going, okay, this is what I did this week. Here's what I have lined up. What can I do to be better? And you're just constantly just running that way. If you're just doing it as a way to build stress on yourself, probably don't do it. But I think in regards to setting those next steps of goals, that's where it really lends to.
Yeah, and I feel identified with what you're saying about the impact that you have on other people's success, because I train many, more than 50, more than 100 engineers, software engineers, throughout my years. And one of the engineers that I trained from out of school, I I convinced him to move out of his house, right?
Yep.
Because it was good for him personally, right? And then throughout the years now he's working at Netflix, right? So for me, that's I'm very proud of him, right?
No, absolutely. And this goes even back to the minor league hockey side, like with Netflix, right? So every time you see that logo, you think of him, right?
Right.
It's just somewhere behind that, as I'm trying to figure out where that movie is that I've been trying to find for the last 8 months. He's in there going behind it. But even then, just like you see the billboards, you see the ads on TV, and you're just like, man, I know so and so that's there, and he's doing really well on that. Same thing. I still live here in San Jose, so every time I see a San Jose Barracuda hat, T-shirt in a grocery store, I'm like, man, you did it. It wasn't there before you were here, but every time you see that logo around, it really goes, oh, yep, you pulled something off. I mean, it may have been here with or without me, but I don't think I feel the impact that you put into it really takes it to that next level.
And being part of that of their journey, right, and help them out.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. I mean, I find myself very selfless in that sense. But I also but you also have to, make your own goals and strive for that. And that's not being selfish at all. That's just being human. But I think being aware of those around you and having that humanity of going, okay, what can I do to support others while I'm in this sense of, I wouldn't even say comfort, but in this, I have a direction of where things are going. Because I know a few people that are like, man, you're really killing it. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. But because I feel like I could do better, but they're like, I would love to be where you're at now. And I was like, okay, well, here's a starting point. Like, what do you want to do? And then just kind of direct them and go, you have this levels of background. Let's throw this on a resume and then put it out to these people. And I'm sure you're going to find something to kick it off. So
I have almost 50 employees on my team. And recently one of my guys was able to buy a house, right, with a loan and all that stuff, right? But nevertheless, I'm very proud of him, because he was able to do that, and we were able to
and
help
it's
him get
because
there.
that's a bit of your success, right? And I think
Right.
there's a high tides raise all ships, right? So I think that's a little bit of that. It's I think that goes back to your previous question there. It's what's that leadership really role? It's it's helping those around you get to where they want to be personally and professionally, and that, much like Z Biotics, it's that's just rewarding internally. Is watching them grow personally, where they're able to you know build a family, have a house, pay off those student loans, things a little like that, where you're just like, man, because of what we were able to build here, I made that guy's life so much better. And that's not even just, again, not even being selfish. It's just something that you can really reflect on and be proud of the work that you've done.
Yeah, and we have another person having a kid, right? They had twins, right? So, being able to give them the
Yeah,
work
prevent
environment
that.
where they can,
Yeah,
they're good on their, stable on their mind, with a flexible time, so they can
yeah,
spend time with their
work-life balance,
kids.
man. That's key to life, really. And
Right.
I think that's other something that I think Silicon Valley started, um, and I think has done better for the world for it. So
And going back to what you were talking about, being able to get to this highly competitive, crazy environment, where there's a lot of innovation, but also, they go to the extremes, and being able to go back to, your, to your home base, and, have that rooted, linked where, they have a more traditional way of life, right? And that allows you to still be connected to the reality, right?
exactly. And you know what? That makes that makes productivity that much higher. I think
Right.
if you have that level of happiness, it may not even take them 40 hours. They might just be able to get it done in 30. And you may not even notice, but like they probably have done double the amount of work instead of sitting there stressing, going, okay, how am I paying the bills this month? How are, things of this matter? And you're just kind of, your brain's in multiple places. But if you have that sense of calm and happiness, you have that determination to keep that life going. And so I
Right.
think a lot of that, depends on that focus there. So I find it, incredible, as that work-life balance really comes back. I think some people really, found that niche in the pandemic, and I think I've, some of it found it a little bit afterwards as well. And I think it's just a matter of like, navigating the world as a whole. So
There is I remember the book I have. I'll send you to you later, but this author talks about when we do activities, tasks, right, in our daily days. There are two components: the purpose and the gratification, right? So if you're doing something that gives you instant gratification and it has a purpose, the level of enjoyment goes up and up and up, right? Um, so if you have an activity that gives you purpose but is not very enjoyable, or it's basically sucks, right?
yeah,
Then
exactly.
you're saying, okay, I'm doing this because of the higher purpose, right? So that
Yep.
helps you like go through, tasks that are not very pleasant, right?
Yeah,
um,
no, exactly. It's a risk and reward.
right, right. And if you're doing things that gives you gratification in the moment, right, but it doesn't have a purpose, it's kind of like when you don't put salt to the food, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't have flavor,
But
right?
and that goes even back to the stickiness of the service you're providing, right? If you're just,
Right.
if you're just doing it just to do it, sure, it may last a couple cycles, but like then somebody's like, wait, there's something missing here. It's a little empty. And there's nothing you can control, nothing they can control. It's just you can always, have that, karmic feeling of like, what, like I'm expecting a little bit more out of this effort that we're putting in, but you just can't put your finger on it, and that's usually where you get a little, a bit of a disinterest from the client base.
And people can see that very very quickly, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Like I said, it may take a cycle or two, but like they'll figure it out very quickly. And I think that's something that, you need to pride yourself on the service that you're providing. And if something's going wrong, you need to pivot, because
Right.
that's how it goes on a business end. They're not going to keep shopping at your store if, they're having a terrible time each time they're in there. So
Right.
That also goes to to the people. I was going to ask you about your team. If the product is not having fulfilling the needs of others, then the whole your whole team is going to also be unmotivated, right?
yeah,
You mentioned that you're leading a team of 250
yeah.
members, right? Which is amazing. So how do you ensure consistent alignment with company goals and keep them motivated to achieve the goals, right?
Absolutely. That's really simple. It's everybody being on the same page, and having that open line of communication. So I think when you find a lead or a client that is looking for a specific thing, um, usually like running sales, that I think that first step is that discovery call. And um, you also, I'm not sure how deep into these sales conversations you have with others. One of the first things you learn in sales is allow the customer and the client to talk probably about 80% of the time, and you take it around 20. And then, with that, just sit there, take notes, roll through, and just, okay, this person needs X, Y, Z. And then you go, cool. And in your experience, you'll know, okay, either this is a fit and we can do this, or hey, we can do this. I'm not sure about this. Let me check on that. Or hey, this doesn't work at all. Let me get you to somebody else that could. Um, so you find if through a discovery call, what that niche is, and then you get it over to that secondary call, which I've always gone from my software side, which is I've always said it's the sales engineer call. And that's those who are doing a lot of the deliverable work. And that's when you're working with them hands-on and going, okay, here's the client, here's what their needs are, here's here's the deliverables they're looking for, and then you're able to have a conversation with them, maybe jump on that call with both parties and really be on the same page there, because they're in the same thing. They want to work. They don't want to just sit around twiddle their thumbs all day. It's that strive of getting to that next piece. But again, if they're going in there and just coming in completely clueless, you're going to get sort of a tangled mess in regards to lines of communication, but also the service as a whole. So I think, sticking onto those, putting them into that sales process, but also having that open line of communication really allows, for, further success, not just for you leading the team, but those that are underneath you delivering it through. And the same thing even on just leading a sales team from that end as well. I believe, everybody's up for the same goal of hitting these certain numbers. So it's like, okay, how are you providing that? And then you're able to emulate, what you did for so long and be like, hey, try this. And just stick things that way. Even I have people still come to me where it's just where I'll always ask, hey, is this right? And they're like, maybe switch this or maybe add this little piece, turn this a little bit to the left. Because sometimes you're so stuck in your normal ways that you always kind of forget, hey, maybe there should be some outside thinking just to make sure everything's sort of cleaned out. So I think just working with such a team, you're really kind of able to figure out, okay, here's what we're going to do as a creative solution, and that's how we're going to get to the next piece.
You ask about what has been my experience on the sales process, right? I've been that software engineer doing getting those meetings.
Yep.
But I was a 16-year-old kid.
Man, I could barely do a PowerPoint during that time, so I can't imagine what.
So
I can't imagine what you were going through.
So the meeting, it was physical meetings, way before COVID. We went through 9/11, all that stuff. So I would go into these meetings, and I was meeting with enterprise level, the CTO of the biggest steel manufacturer at that time, right? And I will go from who let the kid in, right? Who lost their kid? It's bring your family, bring your kid to the office day, right? To because I already had in advance what what they were trying to do, what were their needs and things like that, and I would bring technical demos with prototypes of showing how they could solve their issues, right? To from there to because I was basically able to show them how they could implement the different technologies that we were showcasing, right? And in 20 minutes I was going from one place to the other, right? And usually helping the sales team close the deals. So it was very fun.
Yeah, no, it's absolute joy, but you just gotta have a run bit of a comfort in there, and just making sure everything is just running smoothly, but sometimes you're also learning on the fly, right? And I think maybe because I do have this monotone voice, that sometimes that's to my benefit, where like keep calm, cool, and collective, even if you're panicking on the inside. Just having that structure, and be like, okay, cool, because there's all the time in the world after that call or after that meeting, and go, hey, answer what you can, but be honest with them. And it's just like, hey, I don't know the answer to this yet, but I will. And just they're so open to having that because nobody's perfect on it, but and then in time you have that go, okay, we can do this, cool. Next time somebody ever asks me that, I know I can answer it that way. And that's exactly how you gotta roll about the business that way.
The first time I overpromised, like, oh, we can do everything, blah blah blah, right? And then one of the senior salesmen scolded me and said, do not do that again, right? If you don't know, you don't know, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Don't give BS, and that stick with me. And
Okay, and that's the difference between a used car salesman and an actual salesperson.
Right, right, yeah. And then after a day, I was able to give them whether the answer, whether we could or we could not, or it was feasible or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it was a much more meaty answer, right?
Yeah, but sometimes the muffler is broke, and you got 40K more miles on it, or
Right.
hey, it's brand new. So like it's just little things like that where it's just like you got to kind of be run up in front, because people will come back, especially if you are upfront and honest with them. They will come back for you forever and then tell their friends about it. And you know what? That's the easiest sales cycle of your life, is when somebody goes, "Hey, I'm working with this guy. It worked great. You should talk to him." And then that person pretty much picks up the phone and goes, "Hey, I know so and so," and they're like, "We think that'd be the great." And I was like, "Cool." So it's just those are the best ones, and the way of doing that is just being yourself, but also making sure that you're being upfront and honest.
It's like magic when you see it happens. It's like, wow, everything flows so great. It's like a concert. Everything runs smoothly, but it takes a lot of experience, the building a relationship, building trust to get to that point, right?
Yep.
Awesome. So I changing topics. I have another question for you about
Of course.
You're organizing events in the Bay Areas, right? In the Bay
Yes.
Area.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I think one is building an ecosystem. So making
Right.
sure you have the right people in and around you. So I've been in the outsourced finance and accounting space for over 8 years now, and it's like, man, this is one, I never thought I'd be in it, but it was just like, but once I got in there, my founder at the time, he was like, yes, I work with lawyers, bankers, HR providers, insurance providers, real estate agents, and he was like, I'm going to introduce you to everybody that I know and work with, but they're too old for you. Like, no need to work with those guys because they're way past that need. What you need to do is learn the people underneath them that are in the same position that you are with me, with them. So I was able to meet all those bankers, the lawyers, and that he knew, and go, hey, who you working with? Like who's got you underneath you, and who's on your team that I should meet. And that was, so I still do 20 to 30 meetings a month, just to keep my brain active, but also be in touch with these people, and a lot of them have become really just good close friends. Just last week I couldn't walk about 10 feet without saying hi to somebody, and it's just like, man, you really kind of build and grow your business and network off through there. Lawyers I met when they were associates, and now they're big time partners at firms across the Bay Area. And I think that's the clutch thing of building out these events, because you can throw a party anytime you want, but who's gonna show up? And that's what really kind of comes into it. So it's a collaboration with a lot of those other service providers, as well as VCs, who are trying to get out, meet as many founders in the world, and just kind of get a good finger on the pulse of things. And then even with that, you're able to build a network, and then you kind of have to kind of create a program. So what we were doing, I was doing a Meet the VC where it was more of a fireside chat like this, but in person in San Francisco once a month, at a law office that had a gorgeous view, and we would collectively get 40 to 70 people there every second Tuesday of the month, and get a lot of that flowing. And then that word of mouth kept spreading, and it kept building and growing, and had to build one out here in Silicon Valley, are down here more like closer to San Jose, and be able to really build out more of that network to it. We also did it in Los Angeles and a couple other markets as well. And then, but beyond that, kind of create panel events where multiple different service providers on top of a VC will be able to, talk about certain things, and founders will take a lot of these, talks that we're having like right now, and be able to, take it to heart and go, okay, I'm gonna add this to my repertoire. Even if you grab one or two things and then you meet two or three people that are also there, that's a successful night for a lot of people, including myself. So you really kind of roll off that way. Um, so doing a lot of events is as a huge piece of kind of making sure the ecosystem's building and growing, um, but also helping out your partners as more founders kind of come in, and everybody's really kind of getting acquainted across the Bay Area, and then I think what I've been doing with Startup Grind, which I've been very blessed to be a part of for the last year, is having a sort of a network of where founders can come together, meet one another, meet investors, and meet service providers, and become sort of this ecosystem that was organically kind of be able to build and grow. So we do about one a month, if not twice a month, sometimes around conferences as well, to really build out a network to have people kind of come together, and show their faces and sharpen their skills. So when I started this job, I didn't know the first thing about finance and accounting. There's a lot of Googling. But I remember I was at a pitch event at GSV Labs in Redwood City, and somebody was like, "What do you do?" And I was like, "I'm an outsourced finance accounting, help, day-to-day bookkeeping, APAR, the whole spiel." And I go, "I don't know what I just said," like in my mind, but I was like, "I know that was right." So like those are the ways that you're able to sharpen up, even just the way that you speak or even your pitch, just to have those talking to. You can look at yourself in the mirror and do it all the time, but you're never going to have that face-to-face like you do with those community events. So I think that's a great spot. But the people I've met there, it's just, everybody from all walks of life, from, people from different countries up to, billionaires who is like, oh yeah, I got this YouTube channel. And it's just like, and now I know them from a first name basis, and we say hi to each other all the time. And you're just like, man, only in Silicon Valley that can that happen, but also like that you become a network and you become a piece of that environment, that people expect you to be there. Because like I'll see people and they're like, "Oh, I went to this thing. I was expecting to see you, Shane. Like, what were you doing?" And you're like, "Oh, like I had a car appointment or something like that." And just people expect you to be there after a while, which means you're making an impact within the community as well.
Right. That's amazing. What is the most the craziest story or the funniest story you can share about while organizing the events?
Oh man, it's it's never the same event twice, I would say. I think even when you have repetitiveness, you're always constantly trying to rebuild the list, and sometimes you're hot and sometimes you're not. That's event management as a whole. That goes back. That's minor league hockey back in and again. So you say like, what? How is this transferable? It all goes back to everything. But I think a lot of it, I think the culmination has been this year. So I've had two events that I just completely, have blown away. So we had an investor founder meeting event, where it's just completely out of the box in the middle of summer. We rented out this massive mansion up in Woodside, and it was literally like an 80s John Hughes party. And it was just so much fun where everybody just had a blast, and it was, there was pitches going on, but it was just like, here's an amazing view, here's some amazing food. People are just really, looking towards, working for that. So, and then I would say, and then this year as well, one that I had over at TechCrunch, was probably the most I've ever had in regards to people. So we had over about almost 700 signups, and about 300 people showed up, which is absolutely wild. And then just quick last one on the event side. We did one at South by Southwest in 2019. And same thing, much like Z Biotics, you go, oh, um, hey, are you on this list? And then he was like, no, but can I come in? And I was like, are you a founder? Blah, blah, blah. He was like, I am. I've got this company, and it's called Cameo. And I was like, okay. And I was just like, all right.
Oh,
I was like, what do you do? And he explained, just video messaging, from celebrities allows people to, have more fan interaction. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then the pandemic happened and everybody had a cameo. And that was like another one, another one in the box where, man, it's just it's so awesome to see.
amazing,
Yeah,
amazing.
but I almost rejected this guy from a party. He was just like, and we're just like, and I was like, hey, like we're kind of at like capacity, and he was like, come on. I was like, okay, what do you do? And then we put him in, and I'm like, so every time I'm like, man, I met that guy one time. So
I almost reject that guy, you know.
yeah. I almost was like, hey, man, can't come in. But I'm glad I did, because now I have that wonderful story to come in the back of it. So.
Great, great, amazing. We could continue talking for
Oh, I
a
know. I
lot
could
more
talk
time. Yeah,
for hours. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, but we're running out of time, and I want to be respectful of your time. So
Yep.
we should wrap it up. But I really appreciate Greg you joining, and we'll share on the notes how people can reach out to you
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
the link for
So
the
again,
event.
just quickly, Xact Inc. I'm the VP of Sales here, but don't if you need outsourced finance and accounting, great, I'm your guy. But if you need anything else, whether that be banks, lawyers, anywhere on the ecosystem relationship, I always have to make an introduction for you. So anybody who is watching, listening to this, happy to help in any way possible. I know, yeah, probably my LinkedIn will probably be posted up on here as well. Feel free to reach out, let them know that you heard me from the PreVetted podcast, and whatever I can do, happy to be there.
Great, amazing. We'll share your story, and hopefully a lot of people will reach out.
Perfect, awesome.
Great.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Greg.